Imagine a quiet Sunday afternoon, the sun streaming through the windows, the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the room, and everything seeming perfectly normal. And then, out of nowhere, you drop a bombshell. "We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." Just saying those words aloud makes the air feel heavier, like a sudden storm rolling in on a clear day. There's no dramatic pause, no subtle warning, just the plain, blunt truth hitting like a tidal wave. In that moment, the world seems to shift just slightly, but enough to make her heart skip a beat and her mind race to grasp the reality of what she's just heard. The beauty of an opening hook is that it doesn't just tell the audience what happened, it makes them feel it. The words themselves are simple, almost casual, yet they carry enormous emotional weight. Selling a beach house isn't just about a property, it's about memories, nostalgia, family gatherings, sunsets watched from the porch, sand between toes, laughter echoing off the walls. To someone who has lived and loved there, the house is more than bricks and timber. It's a repository of a lifetime of moments. And suddenly, without warning, you've announced its departure. This opening line also immediately builds tension and curiosity. The audience is left with 1,000 questions. Why would someone sell the house without telling her? What's going to happen next? How will she react? This tension is key in storytelling. It hooks the listener instantly, drawing them in emotionally and mentally. The statement is both personal and universal. Almost everyone has a place or memory they hold sacred, so they can empathize with the shock and the heartbreak of this moment. Finally, this line is an invitation. It's an entry point into a story filled with secrets, surprises, and human emotion. It promises that what follows will explore not just a physical transaction, but a web of feelings, choices, and consequences. By starting with this bold, jarring statement, the speaker doesn't just inform the audience, they immerse them in the emotional gravity of the moment, setting the stage for a story that will unfold with depth, tension, and heart. The moment she hears the words, "We're going tomorrow, Mom, I've sold your beach house," time seems to slow. Her eyes widen, as if trying to process a foreign language, and her hand instinctively rises to her mouth, a gesture of disbelief. At first, there's a frozen pause, the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. The room, once filled with the comfort of ordinary life, suddenly feels tight, suffocating, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath. Shock grips her in a way that makes her heart race and her stomach knot. Disbelief follows closely behind. She shakes her head slowly, murmuring under her breath, almost hoping that the words were just a cruel trick, a bad joke. You sold it. Without telling me?" Her voice trembles, caught between anger and sorrow. The audience can feel her struggle to reconcile the reality she now faces with the memories and emotional attachments she has tied to the house. It's not just a property. It's a repository of years of laughter, family holidays, and quiet moments that have become part of her identity. As the initial shock wears off, sadness floods in. Her shoulders slump slightly, and tears threaten to spill over. Each memory, the smell of salt in the air, morning walks along the beach, nights spent watching the sunset, surfaces with a pang of loss. As if a chapter of her life has been abruptly ripped away, leaving her disoriented and grieving. The audience can sense the weight of her emotional burden, empathizing with a loss that feels both sudden and irreversible. Anger, too, makes its presence felt. She grips the armrest of her chair, her knuckles white, and her voice rises, though it shakes with emotion. "Why would you make such a decision without me? Don't you know what this house meant?" The anger isn't just at the sale itself, it's at the secrecy, the feeling of being left out, the betrayal of trust. It's a multidimensional reaction, layered with grief, disbelief, and a longing for explanations. Through her reaction, the audience connects deeply to the narrative. They see not just a mom confronting a financial decision, but a human being facing emotional upheaval. The shock, disbelief, anger, and sadness make the scenario profoundly relatable, drawing listeners into the story and allowing them to imagine how they might feel in her shoes. Her reaction becomes the emotional heartbeat of the story, setting the stage for the unfolding conflict, moral dilemmas, and eventual resolution. Behind the seemingly impulsive decision to sell the beach house lies a secret that weighs heavily on the narrator's heart, a secret that, until now, has been carefully hidden from Mom. On the surface, the action might look reckless, even callous, but the truth is far more complicated. Life, as it often does, presented a crossroads, a choice between preserving the past and securing the future, and the narrator made the painful decision to prioritize the latter. Financial struggles were mounting silently, like storm clouds gathering around the horizon. Bills were piling up, unexpected expenses kept arising, and the dream of a secure, stable future seemed to be slipping further out of reach. Selling the house wasn't an act of defiance or disregard, it was a calculated necessity. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a burden, an expensive relic that tied the family to obligations they could no longer comfortably shoulder. To the narrator, the sale represented more than money. It was a lifeline, a way to protect the family from looming financial uncertainty. But there was also opportunity. A buyer had come along with an offer that was too good to pass up, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to transform the family's circumstances. The timing was perfect, but the urgency meant there was no room for consultation. Waiting could mean losing the deal, losing a chance that could secure the family's stability for years to come. The narrator wrestled with the moral implications. Could a good decision still feel wrong if it hurt someone you love? Beneath these practical reasons, there was a deeper, more personal plan at play. Selling the house wasn't only about escaping financial strain, it was about growth, change, and moving forward. The narrator envisioned a future where the family could thrive without the weight of the past anchoring them down. Perhaps it meant investing in new opportunities, creating a home that better reflected current needs, or simply finding a way to honor Mom's memories without being trapped by the property. This secret, kept to protect both Mom and the narrative of her life, adds layers to the story. The audience now understands that the decision, while shocking, came from a place of care, foresight, and responsibility. The revelation deepens the emotional complexity. It's not a story of betrayal, but of difficult choices, moral dilemmas, and the silent burdens carried by those who love deeply. The revelation creates suspense, empathy, and sets the stage for the ensuing conflict, the moral dilemmas, and eventual resolution. Behind the seemingly impulsive decision to sell the beach house lies a secret that weighs heavily on the narrator's heart. A secret that, until now, has been carefully hidden from Mom. On the surface, the action might look reckless, even callous, but the truth is far more complicated. Life, as it so often does, presented a crossroads, a choice between preserving the past and securing the future, and the narrator made the painful decision to prioritize the latter. Financial struggles were mounting silently, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Bills were piling up, unexpected expenses kept arising, and the dream of a secure, stable future seemed to be slipping further out of reach. Selling the house wasn't an act of defiance or disregard, it was a calculated necessity. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a burden, an expensive relic that tied the family to obligations they could no longer comfortably shoulder. To the narrator, the sale represented more than money. It was a lifeline, a way to protect the family from looming financial uncertainty. But there was also opportunity. A buyer had come along with an offer that was too good to pass up, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to transform the family's circumstances. The timing was perfect, but the urgency meant there was no room for consultation. Waiting could mean losing the deal, losing a chance that could secure the family's stability for years to come. The narrator wrestled with the moral implications. Could a good decision still feel wrong if it hurt someone you love? Beneath these practical reasons, there was a deeper, more personal plan at play. Selling the house wasn't only about escaping financial strain, it was about growth, change, and moving forward. The narrator envisioned a future where the family could thrive without the weight of the past anchoring them down. Perhaps it meant investing in new opportunities, creating a home that better reflected current needs, or simply finding a way to honor mom's memories without being trapped by the property itself. This secret, kept to protect both mom and the narrative of her life, adds layers to the story. The audience now understands that the decision, while shocking, came from a place of care, foresight, and responsibility. The twist deepens the emotional complexity. It's not a story of betrayal, but of difficult choices, moral dilemmas, and the silent burdens carried by those who love deeply. The revelation creates suspense, empathy, and sets the stage for the ensuing conflict as the audience anticipates the moment when mom finally learns the truth and the full impact of the secret is revealed. Making the decision to sell the beach house without telling mom was not something taken lightly. It was a choice that sat heavily on the narrator's heart, a gnawing tension that grew with every passing day. On the surface, it may have seemed like a straightforward, practical decision, but internally, it was a battlefield of emotions. Loyalty, love, fear, and guilt colliding in constant conflict. Every time the thought of selling crossed the narrator's mind, it was accompanied by a whisper of doubt. Am I doing the right thing? Am I betraying her trust? The internal struggle was relentless. On one hand, there were compelling reasons to act: financial security, an unmissable opportunity, the chance to create a better future for the family. These rational arguments were like a compass, guiding the narrator toward the sale. But on the other hand, the emotional stakes were enormous. Mom's attachment to the house, the countless memories embedded in every corner, the sense of identity and history tied to the property. How could anyone disrupt that without causing pain? The narrator was acutely aware that this decision would not only affect the family's material well-being, but also strike at the heart of familial love and trust. This tension created sleepless nights and restless days. Every interaction with mom was tinged with a shadow of anxiety. Every conversation a reminder that this secret weighed heavily on both their lives, even if she didn't yet know it. The narrator questioned themselves constantly. Am I being selfish? Am I courageous? Am I both? The emotional conflict was exhausting, a mix of responsibility and guilt that left the heart and mind in turmoil. Empathy played a central role in this inner struggle. The narrator could vividly imagine mom's shock, disappointment, and grief, which only intensified the burden of secrecy. The moral weight of acting without her consent was inescapable. Each thought of the sale came with the haunting awareness of the inevitable emotional fallout. It wasn't a decision made lightly or carelessly. It was a painful choice, a balancing act between practical necessity and emotional loyalty. Ultimately, this internal conflict humanizes the narrator. It shows the audience that difficult decisions are rarely black and white. It creates tension, anticipation, and empathy as listeners understand the depth of struggle behind the act. By exploring the emotional turmoil, the story gains dimension, revealing that love and responsibility often demand choices that are both courageous and heart-wrenching. The audience is left not just knowing what happened, but feeling the profound weight of the decision. Beyond the immediate shock and emotional turmoil, there was a larger reasoning behind the decision to sell the beach house, a perspective that looked past the momentary pain to the long-term well-being of the family. At first glance, the sale might appear sudden or selfish, but when examined through the lens of necessity and foresight, it reveals a carefully considered plan, a strategy to protect and uplift those involved. The house, though full of cherished memories, had become increasingly unsustainable. Maintenance costs were climbing, taxes were rising, and the burden of upkeep was becoming a quiet but relentless stressor. What once had been a haven of relaxation was slowly turning into a source of financial strain, a weight that threatened to overshadow its sentimental value. The decision, therefore, was about more than just money. It was about ensuring the family's stability, security, and future opportunities. Selling the house opened doors that had been previously closed, resources that could be redirected toward education, health, or investments that could enrich the family's life in tangible ways. It was a way of honoring the family's legacy, not by clinging to a structure of bricks and mortar, but by using its value to create meaningful growth and opportunity. The beach house had served its purpose as a repository of memories. Now it could serve a new purpose, one that safeguarded the family's future and allowed everyone to thrive in ways they hadn't imagined before. There was also a symbolic aspect to this choice. Life is rarely static, and clinging to the past can sometimes hinder progress. By making the difficult decision to sell, the narrator was acknowledging that change, though painful, is often necessary for growth. The house represented a chapter in the family story that had been full of joy, love, and connection, but holding on to it indefinitely could prevent the next chapter from unfolding fully. The sale was not a rejection of the past, but an investment in the future, a way to honor memories while still embracing new possibilities. Presenting the bigger picture helps the audience understand that difficult choices often require looking beyond immediate emotions. It frames the sale not as an act of betrayal, but as a courageous step, balancing practicality with compassion. By explaining the reasoning behind the decision, the story gains depth, allowing listeners to see the thoughtfulness and care that went into an action that initially appeared shocking. The bigger picture transforms the narrative from a moment of conflict into a reflection on responsibility, foresight, and the sometimes painful but necessary choices that life demands. The beach house was never just a building. It was a treasure trove of memories, a silent witness to decades of laughter, love, and life's quiet moments. Every corner of the house held a story. The creaky wooden stairs that had echoed with the hurried footsteps of children racing to the shore, the living room where the family had gathered during stormy nights to play board games, and the kitchen where the smell of Mom's cooking had filled the air, drawing everyone together. For Mom, each detail was infused with a lifetime of experiences, a tangible connection to her family and her own sense of identity. Summer vacations at the beach house were sacred. Early mornings meant walks along the shoreline, the sand cool beneath bare feet, collecting seashells and watching the sun rise over the horizon. Afternoons were filled with laughter, games, and the smell of sunscreen mixing with salt in the air. Evenings brought quiet reflection on the porch where Mom had watched her children grow, talking about dreams, plans, and the small wonders of life. Those moments, seemingly ordinary at the time, had become priceless treasures, etched into memory like the tide leaving patterns in the sand. Holidays carried their own magic. Thanksgiving dinners in the beach house dining room, Christmas mornings with presents spilling across the floor, and birthday celebrations surrounded by friends and family. All of these events had created a tapestry of joy and togetherness. The house had been a stage for countless milestones: first steps, graduations, weddings, and celebrations of achievements big and small. Each memory reinforced the house's significance, making it far more than property. It was a living testament to the life Mom had built and nurtured. Even the quieter, mundane moments held meaning. The sound of waves crashing outside, the smell of sea air drifting through open windows, the cozy corners where she had read her favorite books or shared stories with loved ones. These small moments had formed the rhythm of her life, providing comfort, continuity, and connection. To sell the house was not just to sell bricks and beams, but to let go of a vessel that held so much of her heart, a place where time seemed to pause and memories lingered. By reflecting on Mom's memories, the audience feels the emotional depth of the story. They understand why the sale carries such weight, why her reaction is so raw, and why this house represents far more than just a financial asset. It's a symbol of love, family, and the moments that define a life, a poignant reminder of what is gained and what is lost when tough decisions must be made. The hardest part of the decision wasn't signing the papers or finalizing the sale. It was anticipating Mom's reaction and summoning the courage to face it. Every time the thought crossed the narrator's mind, a knot of anxiety formed in the stomach. What would she say? Would she be angry, hurt, or silent with disbelief? The mind raced through every possible scenario, replaying past conversations, gestures, and shared moments, all now tinged with the knowledge of impending confrontation. Facing consequences is never easy, especially when the stakes are personal, emotional, and tied to someone you love deeply. Admitting the truth required immense courage. It meant laying bare the secret, revealing the internal struggles, and acknowledging the fact that the decision, though made with careful reasoning, had caused pain. There was no way to soften the blow completely, no words to fully capture the balance between necessity and empathy. The narrator understood that honesty might provoke anger, tears, or disappointment, yet hiding the truth would be a betrayal of trust that could linger indefinitely. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily, making every step toward confession feel both necessary and terrifying. Anticipating Mom's response also brought self-reflection. The narrator questioned motives, doubted judgment, and wrestled with guilt. Each imagined scenario carried a mixture of hope and dread. Hope that she might understand, dread that the bond between them could fracture. The emotional tension was palpable. The room seemed smaller, the air heavier, as if the secret itself had taken up physical space, waiting to be confronted. This anticipation highlights the very human reality that difficult decisions rarely end with a signature. They continue to live in the hearts and minds of those involved, demanding accountability, empathy, and courage. Yet there was a glimmer of purpose in facing these consequences. Confrontation, while uncomfortable, offered a chance for reconciliation, understanding, and growth. It was an opportunity to demonstrate that tough choices, even when painful, were made with love and foresight. By preparing to face Mom's reaction honestly, the narrator embraced vulnerability, accepting that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. This moment of facing consequences resonates with the audience because it mirrors real-life experiences. Everyone has faced decisions that carry risk, provoke discomfort, or challenge trust. The narrative emphasizes that accountability, empathy, and courage are essential when dealing with the outcomes of one's actions, creating both tension and emotional depth, and setting the stage for eventual resolution and reflection. Even after the shock and the emotional turbulence of selling the beach house, there was a way forward, a plan to honor Mom's memories and preserve the essence of what the house had meant to the family. The decision to sell, though difficult, didn't erase the past or the love embedded in every corner of that home. Instead, it became an opportunity to transform memories into something lasting and tangible, ensuring that the family's connection to the house would continue even if they no longer owned it. The first step in this resolution was to preserve the physical and emotional artifacts of the beach house. Photographs, keepsakes, and small mementos were carefully collected and cataloged, each one a thread linking the family to decades of laughter, milestones, and quiet moments. By creating a dedicated memory space, whether a scrapbook, digital archive, or even a display in their new home, the narrator could ensure that Mom's cherished memories remained alive, accessible, and celebrated. The essence of the house, the moments that made it truly special, could be carried forward in a way that honored her heart and her history. Next came the commitment to maintain family traditions. Selling the house did not mean abandoning the rituals that had given the family life and meaning. Summer trips to the beach, holiday celebrations, and reunions could continue in new spaces, ensuring that the family remained connected while building fresh experiences together. This balance between honoring the past and embracing the future was essential. The memories of the house could be preserved without becoming a source of lingering regret or stagnation. Reconciliation also meant transparency and dialogue. The narrator planned to have honest conversations with Mom, sharing the reasons behind the sale, the thought process, and the hopes for the family's future. By acknowledging the pain caused while emphasizing the care and foresight that guided the decision, trust could be rebuilt and empathy could flourish. This open communication would transform the sale from an act of secrecy into a story of understanding, growth, and love. Finally, there was hope. The sale, while marking the end of an era, also represented the beginning of new possibilities, a chance to invest in experiences, opportunities, and family connections that could enrich their lives in ways the beach house alone never could. By focusing on continuity, memory, and shared love, the narrator ensured that the house's legacy lived on, proving that endings can be beginnings, and that even difficult choices can lead to hope, reconciliation, and the promise of a meaningful future. As we reflect on the intricate threads that bind a family together, we come to realize that love is never a simple equation. It is messy, complicated, and sometimes painfully contradictory. Families are not just collections of people who share a last name, they are ecosystems of memory, expectation, sacrifice, and longing. Each relationship within that ecosystem carries its own weight, the unspoken disappointments, the quiet heroics, the moments of joy that often go unnoticed. And yet, it is precisely these complexities that make family so profoundly human. Love, in its truest form, demands vulnerability. It asks us to confront the parts of ourselves we would rather hide and to extend grace even when we feel none is deserved. But love also requires courage. It asks us to make choices that are not easy, choices that might challenge our comfort, our desires, or even our personal sense of fairness. These tough choices are the moments that define the heart of family, when we must weigh our own needs against the well-being of those we hold most dear. And in that balancing act, there are no perfect answers, only honest attempts, fraught with doubt, regret, and hope. It is in these spaces of uncertainty where the beauty and tragedy of family life intersect. We are reminded that the people we love are not only reflections of our own hearts, but also separate worlds with their own fears, dreams, and mistakes. To navigate these connections is to embrace the full spectrum of human emotion, joy and sorrow, pride and guilt, tenderness and frustration. Each choice, each act of love, no matter how small, creates ripples that shape not just our families, but ourselves. So, as we leave here today, perhaps the question we carry is not how to find the right answer in moments of conflict, but how we continue to love in spite of the uncertainty. How do we honor our own hearts while nurturing the hearts of those we love? And ultimately, when we face the hardest decisions, will we look back and remember not the mistakes we made, but the courage it took to choose love again and again, even when it hurt? Family, love, and tough choices are inextricably intertwined. And perhaps the greatest truth we can hold on to is this: the measure of a life is not in avoiding difficult decisions, but in the willingness to make them with love. So, I leave you with this lingering thought. What does it mean to truly love someone when love itself asks you to risk everything? Wow, if that story hit you even a little, don't forget to like this video. It really helps me know what resonates. And if you want more stories about family, love, and those impossible choices that shape our lives, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. I also want to hear from you. Drop a comment and share. Have you ever had to make a tough choice for someone you love? How did it feel? Let's talk about it, because sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that connect us the most.